Welcome to Between the Reads, where we shine a spotlight on some of the most talented Black authors in the industry to discuss their works of fiction and the inspirations behind them. Each episode will dive into the rich and diverse world of literature, exploring everything from historical fiction to romance and speculative fiction to YA and beyond. Tune in as we celebrate the voices of Black authors and the power of storytelling. Are you ready, Boos and Bros? Then sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Bianca Sloane, named for 70s fashion icon Bianca Jagger, has been writing since she could hold a pen. Some of her earliest literary efforts include Sweet Valley High fan fiction, short stories about snotty cheerleaders, and ideas for movies and TV shows that may or may not have revolved around Erica Kane. Sloane worked for a major book retailer before embarking on a career in public relations and advertising. However, like many aspiring authors, she harbored dreams of writing fiction and spent nights and weekends tapping out manuscripts for what would eventually become her first 3 novels. Sloane's foray into indie publishing came after reading an article the late movie critic Roger Ebert shared on Twitter about how Amanda Hocking took control of her writing career via the burgeoning ebook market. Inspired, Sloane dusted off the manuscripts that had been collecting dust on her computer and decided to take the plunge into indiedom. She took a writing class with her author crush, best-selling author Joy Fielding, committed Stephen King's seminal memoir On Writing to Memory, and read all 1,420 pages of J.A. Conrad's The Newbie's Guide to Publishing. In 2012, Sloane released her first novel of psychological suspense, Live and Let Die, later renamed Killing Me Softly. The book was chosen as Thriller of the Month in May 2013 by eThriller.com and named a 2013 top read by USA Online Book Club. Sloane's follow-up, Sweet Little Lies, hit the top 10 on Amazon's crime bestsellers list. Her third novel, Every Breath You Take, was released on February 14, 2015, and has been a mainstay on Amazon's kidnapping bestsellers list. Her additional works include Missing You, a companion novel to Every Breath You Take, the duology Live to Tell and Tell Me a Lie, What You Don't Know, and When I Die. Sloane's writing influences include Mary Higgins Clark, Gillian Flynn, and of course, Joy Fielding. Sloane resides in Chicago. She likes old movies, pecan praline ice cream, and popcorn. She does not like getting caught in the rain. Bianca, welcome to Between the Reads.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. This was, listen, I was telling Bianca before the show, y'all, that she challenged the hell out of me because, you know, when you read certain books, you can't ask certain questions because it's going to give everything away. And
Right.
I could not ask a lot of things because it was going to give stuff away. So It literally took me about a day to come up with these questions.
Oh my gosh, wow. So I really put you through it. I love it.
You put me through it, man. And first off, I know you're Midwestern. Y'all, it's soda, not pop. Okay?
Well, actually, I'm going to mess everything up because I spent most of my childhood in Texas, and it's Coke.
Oh, well, so they call everything Coke there, huh?
It's Dr. Pepper, it's Pepsi, Coke.
Everything is Coke.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Everything is Coke.
Yeah, because I was reading that and I was like, because it takes place in Illinois, and I lived in Illinois for, about 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And people, when I would go to restaurants, people would look at me like I was crazy when I was like, what kind of soda do you have? And they were like, seltzer water, club. I'm like, what the hell? That's not soda. I said soda.
No,
they were like, what do you mean? I was
Coca-Cola.
like Pepsi, Coke. They were like, oh, you mean pop? I was like, no, I mean soda.
Right. That's right. When I first moved here, it was the same thing. I was like, what's this pop they're talking about? I don't understand.
Pop. Yeah. And we call them sneakers and they call them gym shoes. Mm-hmm. No.
It's so funny, right? The different vernacular that we have with regional. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I said, I grew up mostly in Texas, in and around Texas, and like my family's still there. I go there quite a bit, and like I said, everything's Coke.
Right. Yeah.
Everything, if it's Pepsi, if it's Mountain Dew, even they'll call it.
So
Coke.
how do they distinguish them when you say I want a Coke? Did they say what kind?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, what kind of Coke was that? Oh, it's Dr. Pepper. Oh, okay. Coming right up. So, yeah. Texans just do it different.
I guess, honey. I guess.
Yeah.
They grown different too based on
They
this
grown,
book.
Yes, indeed. Because part of it, as you know, does take place in Houston. And I based it a little bit on some of my experience being a child of the 80s, growing up for, a couple of years anyway, in Houston, Texas, and just remembering, the radio stations you listened to and going to the mall and, spending time, at the music store, and we just don't do things like that anymore. So I drew a lot from those experiences, and it was a lot of fun taking that walk down memory lane.
I bet it was. We're gonna get into that a little bit, so why don't you start by telling us what And When I Die is all about, and where the interesting inspiration behind the plot for this story came from.
Absolutely. So, And When I Die is about these teenage girls. They're like 16 years old, and specifically the queen bee, Whitney Dean, who's had this major falling out with her best friend, Jordan. And nobody knows why. And so in the meantime, Whitney has kind of taken on this other girl as her new bestie, Carly. And there's a lot of tension that's brewing, a lot of things going on. It all comes to a head at Whitney's Sweet 16, which is the social event of the season. Everybody, has to be there because that's like important to you, right? When you're 16, like the dumbest things, they seem like so important at the time. And like you live and die, literally, like you live and die by it. And Jordan and Whitney get into this huge fight at the party because Jordan's mom made Whitney's mom invite her to the party because it was so important for her to be there. And a week later, Whitney is murdered. And everybody, of course, thinks, well, it has to be Jordan because they were mortal enemies. And then Carly's mom thinks, well, maybe it was Carly, because Carly is this like people pleaser, and Whitney was upset that Carly had not jumped in at the party and had her back. You're supposed to be my ride or die, and you just were, in the court, like, what do I need you for?
Right.
Because again, like this is like the irrational mind of a 16-year-old, right? And sadly, some adults too sometimes. But so what happens then is, I'm not wrong.
Erica.
Really that's Jordan's mom. Yes, she's very much living kind of vicariously through her daughter and her daughter's popularity. And her daughter's popular, but she doesn't care. It doesn't matter to her, but it matters so much to Erica. So it becomes, this is an insular community, Lake Forest, which is North Shore, Chicago suburbs, and these are very insular, wealthy, bad things don't happen type of, suburbs. On every corner, it's, financial planner. In other neighborhoods, every corner, it's, the corner store, it's the bodega.
Right.
It's, that difference, and so it's like a whodunit. Who murdered Whitney? Well, then in the background, there's this not cold case, but it's an old case. That's a better way to put it. An old case from the 80s that has parallels to what happened with Whitney. And we start to see how they merge and what happened and how what happened in the past has affected what's in the future, or present day rather, and how it all blows up, let's say.
Yeah. And tell us the inspiration behind this.
Yes. So I watch a lot of investigation discovery. Like my joke is always during the pandemic while everybody else was watching Netflix, I was watching investigation discovery, like every show. Like a show will come on and I'm like, oh, that's when fill in the blank murdered, fill in the, like I just know. And, but one of the shows that they had, this was actually pre-pandemic, but one of the shows that they had was, I can't remember the exact name, but it examined murders from the 80s. And one of the episodes that they focused on was called The Cheerleader. murder. And it was the case of this girl. Her name was Kirsten Costas. She was from just outside of San Francisco, Orinda, California. She was a cheerleader, and she was murdered by a classmate. And Orinda was very much like Lake Forest in that it was this wealthy community, very insular, who would do such a thing. It was this brutal stabbing. And the girl, her classmate who had stabbed her, she went to jail for, I think it was 8 years or something like that, 7, 8 years. And then she vanished. She changed her name, she moved away, and then nobody knew, what happened to her. Right. And I thought, that's so interesting. And so just the whole idea of when you're 16 and you're so worried about being popular and people liking you and some girl wore the same sweater I wore, and that's like the end of the world. Like, she, I'm gonna, kick her ass. Right. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But when you're that age, like, these things, they mean so much, and you can't see past that. And so I was just really fascinated to kind of explore that dynamic, and also the dynamic between the mothers. So, as I mentioned, there's Carly's mom, Ava, who's kind of investigating what's going on. One, because she's terrified that it was her daughter, and she's telling herself, well, I'm trying to protect Carly. Right. So she's going at it from that angle. And then there's Whitney's mom, who's, the mother of the victim, and what is she dealing with? What is she going through? Right. And then there's Jordan's mother, who's, like I said, she lives vicariously, or she wants to live vicariously through her daughter's popularity. And, she's a nut job. And so it's just how these different personalities and how it all converges, and, how this murder really impacts the community, how it impacts the girls, how it impacts their mothers. Right. And really, nobody's the same. Right. Yeah. And, afterwards. I read because, of course, I'm, as one of my friends says, I'm intellectually nosy. So when you said... Hey, I love it. When you said that you had, this sign up and get this, behind-the-scenes thing with the book, and I'm reading all this stuff that happened and the parallels that you drew in the story to what actually happened in the case. And, I was like, what, this really happened? Oh, my God. Yeah, it's crazy, right, to, think that this was actually... And I mentioned this also in that little behind-the-scenes. It was made into a TV movie. Right. Twice. With Tori Spelling twice. Yeah. Yes. And I had seen the TV movie back in college, whatever, because it was the 90s, and didn't make the connection right away that story was based on a true story. I mean, it was just like you said, the parallels. Right. Are crazy. Yeah. You did. I was like, oh my gosh, this is real. This really happened. It actually happened. And is it just me, or in the real life thing, did the two of them look alike? They looked alike to me. Just a tiny little bit. Just a little bit in the nose and a little bit in the eyes. Just a quick. They could be if you just went. You would think maybe they're cousins or something. And it's that whole thing, right? Back, you're also trying to look like you try to do your hair the girl in school, or the magazine that you read, 17 magazine. You remember 17 and Teen and YM. And that was another kind of fun thing I did. I went to the library and I pulled down. Wait. Oh, sorry. Ooh, I'm jumping ahead. Oops. You going through all my little questions here. I got everything. I told you I had to come up with different kinds of questions. Okay. We'll get to it. Okay. So being a teen in high school is tough. Yes. Add in the age of the internet, social media, cyberbullying, and honestly, I just don't know how these kids today do it. Yeah. So let's talk about Whitney, who's the queen bee, Carly, who's the wannabe, and Jordan, the cynic, and how the decision-making process behind how you wrote their characters. I kind of knew right away that I started with the mothers. So I started with Erica, who's Jordan's mother. and Carly, and Whitney's mom, she kind of brought up the rear.
Right.
But so I knew that Erica was going to be this kind of like socially grubbing, you know, she wants to be at the top of the heap, and by turns, you know, Jordan's at the top of the heap, so I'm at the top of the heap as well. And I knew that I wanted that the daughters to have like kind of opposite personalities from their mothers, you know. So where Erica is so concerned, like I said, with being at the top, and Jordan could care less. So that creates automatic conflict, right? And Ava is just kind of like, you know, whatever, I don't care, you know, blah, blah, blah. She's just kind of naturally, people kind of naturally gravitated towards her. She, you know, Ava is like, just kind of like normal, everyday. Like, she has friends, people like her, but she's not like trying. Where then her daughter, she doesn't, and she says, you know, I don't understand why these things matter so much to my daughter, because I don't care, you know. So it was just it was setting up that, again, that kind of automatic conflict by making the daughters like the opposite of their moms. And then with Whitney's mom, you know, she was you know, stoner, you know, kind of in high school, and Whitney is, you know, like the bubbly, you know,
perfect
pretty,
princess,
you know, perfect, right, you know. And her mom eventually became that, but that's not how she started, so so yeah, it really started with the moms and their personalities, and then making their daughters the opposite.
So since we're talking about the moms, let's talk about the relationship dynamics and the power struggles that they have with their daughters, and how this really contributed to the issues that their daughters were going through. But don't give anything away. But there's definitely power struggles, and now I can see it now because of the way that you made them opposites. But let's talk about that some more.
Yeah. I mean, like most girls, right? You know, I had those struggles with my mom, right? You know, my mom was very quiet, very studious, and not that I wasn't, but you know, I was very social in high school, and that was difficult for her to understand, you know, a lot of times. And you know, so it's one of those things where you kind of tap into your own experiences in a way, and you bring that forth into you know, what you're writing about, and the dynamics between the characters, the interplay between the characters. And it was interesting, and it was a lot of fun to kind of figure out, you know, how these people who love each other, because they're supposed to, right?
Supposed to.
You know, supposed to. But how they, you know, push each other's buttons, you know. And like with Jordan's family in particular, you know, they're very dysfunctional family. You know, they're the wealthiest family in town. And the mom, Erica, you know, she kind of revels in that position because people will do what she says. People will do what she wants because they're terrified of the husband who wields all this power because he's so wealthy, you know. And again, Jordan's just very unaffected. She could care less about any of it. You know, you would think on the surface, well, Jordan and Ava, who's got the people-pleasing daughter, like, oh, they seem better matched as, you know, mother and daughter. You know, or Carly and Erica, because Carly also cares so much. But, you know, that wouldn't be interesting, I think, to write about or to read about, frankly, if you just had, you know, everybody's the same, everybody's got the same goals, the same, you know, because you have to have that struggle. You have to have that, you know, that conflict, because, you know, that's what keeps us, you know, wanting to know what happened.
Right, yeah.
And so it's just, like I said, it's just a lot of fun to kind of delve into those dynamics between the characters.
And I was like, when you revealed that, you know, Erica was white, but she was married to a black man, it made total sense, because the way Jordan...
Well, that's actually, no,
was that
Whitney?
Whitney, okay,
is biracial. Yeah.
Well, it made total sense. I got the names mixed up, but it made total sense because the way that she would talk to her mother, and her mother was just like, "Oh, okay, dear."
Yeah, ain't no black.
No, ain't no black mamas going to listen to you yelling. You ain't going up and slamming no doors. No. You're not going to sit here and holler at me when I ask you questions. We're not doing all that. We're not doing all that. And all her daddy had to do was say, Whitney. And she was like...
Okay. Well, that was more Jordan's father.
I'm getting them all mixed up.
That's okay. It's a lot of characters. Don't feel bad. It's a lot of characters. No, Jay, that's Jordan's father. He would put the fear of God.
Yeah, he did. He did.
As snotty as she was, and she did not like her mother, and pushing. The minute that her father was like,
"Hey,
now look," she would pipe down all the way.
Yep.
But yes, to your point, Whitney was very much like snotty with her mother, and her mother would just kind of okay,
listen, honey, whatever. I'm so sorry, honey. Like, just she shrunk back from her, and I'm like, you don't shrink back from your daughter,
right?
Ma'am.
You don't. You go. You get in
full throttle. Yeah,
full throttle. That's right.
You don't.
That's right.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah, and that was something that was. I love that you brought that up, because that was something that I did kind of struggle with initially. Was okay. Well, what race are these people?
Right.
Because, because I knew, I mean, part of it, to be honest, was driven by the fact that I knew that I was setting it in Lake Forest, which is predominantly white. Now there's a little color up there, but not
little
much.
Drops.
Like a drop
splash
here and there.
Yeah.
A little splash and you miss it, right? So I knew that it was going to have to be predominantly white, but it was important that because that is important to me in every book that I write, every story that I tell, that I have black characters. And so, like with Carly's father, for example, they're black, and he's British. Like you don't see that,
right?
So it's like trying to let me do like some unexpected things. Let me do something a little different,
right.
With some of these, and then making Whitney's father, Steve, he's black, but his wife is white, and so like that dynamic, right? What is that like, and Whitney being, biracial,
right.
So she's got a little bit of an internal struggle on some level,
right?
Because of that. But no, it was important, I thought, to like I said, to bring some color, so that and I do that with all my books, all my characters. Yeah, that's really important to me, because I, like I'm sure, like a lot of us, growing up, mystery, you didn't really see a lot of that. If anything, and
I'm a child of the 70s, so I did not see myself in any books other than us being struggling, and dysfunction and trauma, and
right,
yeah,
and exactly. So 70s, 80s. So I know it was worse,
right?
Right, from your era. But when I kind of set out to, and I'm going to mention this, but child of the 80s, so I watched the Cosby Show growing up, and so that changed so much.
Yeah, it did.
Irrespective of everything else, but it changed a lot.
Yeah,
it changed a lot about how how we viewed the black family, how we viewed black people. I mean, all of those things.
Yeah,
and. I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up. My father was an attorney. And a lot of these, like as much as I loved Good Times, I didn't know anything about living in the. I'm like you understand.
I mean, I wasn't like my parents weren't rich. We grew up in like a blue collar neighborhood, but our house was nice. We had clothes. We had food. My parents were together. It's normal, normal shit.
Right.
Like not all this broken dysfunction and drugs and all that. Yeah, none of that.
I couldn't relate to any of that. Like I said, Good Times. Every week James can't find a job. Well, my father was an attorney. He had a job.
Right.
My stepmother was an attorney, and there was also just this huge emphasis, and I'm sure in your family as well, on education.
Oh yeah. I think that's every black family.
Every black family. Like my grandmother, my uncle, and my father, PhDs. I mean, I only have a bachelor's. Like, I'm like the low, like in the family, right? I was like, I'm not trying to strive.
Right,
You know?
right.
I'm going to only achieve so much,
This is my benchmark.
This is my benchmark.
Not going above it.
Know thyself, right? And, you got to know who you are.
Right.
But it was when I was sitting down and just knowing that I hadn't really seen a lot of, people who, had the experience that I had in, reading books. And I really wanted to show that, we're people.
Yeah.
And we have the same, fears and desires and struggles that don't have anything to do with worrying about
being
going
black.
Out,
yeah.
Right. And what is one of the things that has been gratifying for me, what I was going to say before. So she's a friend, but she was a reader. She found my book, and she said she was so happy when she saw that I was black, because she said you just don't see a lot of black authors writing psychological suspense, these kinds of books. It's very rare. And I went, and she invited me because it was for her book club. So she invited me to go and speak to her book club, and I went. And hearing the people who had read the book, they said, it was just so nice to read a book where it's, black people and they just happen to be black, but it's like the kinds of things that could happen
to anyone,
to anybody. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's we're universal.
Yeah.
Right. We're universal, and yes, okay, maybe I get ashy and you don't, but still, like.
And maybe I can wear my hair straight or curly or wavy.
Right. Or I can buy it out of a box.
Or I can buy it out of a box. Or I can go get it braided in. But,
or what have you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And so it was just really important to me to show that experience, show my experience, because, as we just talked about, that's what I knew.
Right.
That's what I grew up.
Exactly.
So
popularity and being left out.
Yes.
Two sides of the same villainous coin that are the bane of every teen's existence in high school.
Yep.
And it's the undercurrent of everything that happens in this book.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that.
Let's get to it. Okay, I'm ready. All right.
All right, so tell us what.
Yeah. I talked about how I kind of tapped into like my own experiences on a lot of levels with this, and primarily when I was in junior high. So I had moved to Houston, like my 7th grade year, middle of 7th grade, from a smaller town in Texas, and it was like mind-blowing because these girls, like, they walked out of the pages of fashion magazines, and I mean, I had designer, I didn't have like every single designer label, but I had my Coca-Cola t-shirts and my Guess jeans, and I shopped at the Limited, and, like, I wasn't a slouch, but like these girls, I was, if I had to, because those Coca-Cola rugby shirts, those were like a big thing back, right?
Memories.
I know you know, and you had to have at least one pair of Guess jeans,
yes,
right?
Girl.
Yes, the Jordache, the whole
Jordache,
right?
Gloria Vanderbilt,
yes,
Sasson jeans. Oh my God!
Oh man,
la la.
I need a minute.
Yes,
yes. And like I had that because like you're that age, like you're obsessed with that kind of thing,
right?
But like I moved to this, and it was a middle class. It wasn't like like this lily white. But it was like middle class.
Right.
School. And these girls, like I said, out of the fashion pages, out of the magazines. And I was like, what's happening?
What is going on?
What the hell? Who dropped Dorothy off in this, land? What? And I had just such a, and I wasn't bullied or anything like that. I didn't have that experience, and I had friends, so it wasn't like I was, sitting by myself in the cafeteria. It wasn't like that at all. Right. But it was definitely a feeling of like you just felt a little inferior.
Right.
And it's that yearning that you have. Because again, you're a teenage girl, you're, the hormones, and you're awkward, and, all the things.
Right.
All the things.
Right.
And just, I really wanted to tap into that feeling from, moving from this smaller city or town at the time. It's more of a city now. In Texas to this major metropolitan to just, again, like a regular middle class,
right.
like nothing spectacular about this, particular, part of town we were living in, but it was just a whole different world. And, I wanted to give the characters that feeling of just, you want to be at the cool kids table.
Right.
That because that's the thing, right? When you're in like junior high, not so much in high school, but, kind of, it's like a thing at lunch. Like, what table are you sitting at?
Right.
Who are you sitting with?
Right.
At that table, And if you're not sitting with the cool kids, well, then who are you? Well, you're nobody,
Right.
And it's just that hierarchy, that social, all of those things. And I really wanted to go there. And I really wanted to remember that feeling and put that on the page because, like I said, I had a good experience. I wasn't, I wasn't by myself. I had friends. It wasn't anything like that. But you still have those feelings
right.
of, inferiority.
Right. Yeah.
And envy, right? When it's the pretty popular girls who are the cheerleaders and, they're the star of the school play, all
right.
all those things, all those things. So it was, and when I thought about what would be the motivations behind, the murder, and it just, of course it would be, those feelings of yearning and of inferiority and the hormones going crazy.
Right.
Not that we want to blame things on hormones, but you know what I'm saying. Like you just,
I mean, yeah, but
so
she was also like she was a little left of center, while lot left of center. She was a tad
left of center, just a little bit,
like
just a little bit, yeah. But
was...
it was also kind of, and when I talked about the inspiration, and just reading when I was reading about Bernadette Prati, who murdered Kirsten Costas in 1984. And just, for her, it was everything. Everything from... the
lip gloss, the hair, the house, everything.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Like, how come we can't have,
right.
The nice Laura Ashley furniture,
right. Right.
Like, I mean, I personally wouldn't want that, but it's not my style. Right, but, like, you understand, again, just like, why can't I have what everybody else has? She was very much that girl, like, pressed up against the glass, looking in,
right.
wanting so badly to be in on the other side with the cool kids.
Right. Now, which parent was it? Because I had to stop the book for a second. Which one was it that washed the dental floss?
So that was Whitney's mom. It was her parents, because she grew up with these like miserly parents.
Oh.
And she didn't want to be
Lauren
that way.
Is Whitney's mom. Lauren's parents, even though they had money, they would do things like bring home packets of ketchup and stuff from the grocery store, from restaurants, and put it in the
toilet paper from the public restrooms, and
would wash dental floss and hang it up to dry and reuse it.
So this is an example of you use everything when you write. So I actually got that particular thing with the dental floss. I got that years ago. I was watching Oprah. She had like.
I was about to say, please don't tell me you had to experience that, ma'am.
Oh no! Thank the Lord, no. That's not how we got to the suburbs. No. That's not how we made it to that deluxe apartment.
This ain't that kind of game.
No. This ain't that kind of game. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's That's not how we do.
I read that, I was like, ew.
I know. But I got that from, like, Oprah had these guests on her show, and they were like, how do they save money? And it's like the most ridiculous ways. And like I said, you use everything. You use all the little experiences that you learn, you pick up, and you incorporate, because that makes it feel real.
Right.
As crazy as it might sound, as crazy as it might be, it feels like it made you like, I gotta shut the book for a second because it's feeling a little much. Right. But I'm okay with that because you felt something. You felt something.
I did. I had to stop though because I was like, all right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. So, you weaved the themes of teenage rivalry and adulthood conflict pretty masterfully in this book.
Thank you.
So, did you encounter any challenges while you were doing that during the writing process?
Yeah. This was, as I said, this was a very difficult book for me to write. Because, one, there were so many characters, and you want everyone to feel distinct in who they are. And that was one of the things when, after I went through the beta reading process, where, my beta readers were like, especially like the fathers, except for Jay, who is Jordan's father, Eric's husband. They're like, they just kind of like blend together, like they don't really, So it was, going back and like adding those little details. And I would say too, when you're working on characters, building characterizations, those little details, they don't have to be like, you don't have to know what they ate for breakfast necessarily.
Right.
But you when you add those little details, you add those little things, and that's what starts to make them feel like people.
Right.
Terry McMillan, I read an interview that she did however many years ago, and she's really known, right, for the way her characters, they just feel like actual living, breathing people.
Right.
And she said that she does this it's like a questionnaire, or no, a job application. I'm sorry, it's a job application. And she said that when she was starting out, she would go to like Home Depot, McDonald's, department stores, and she would just collect job applications. And from that, she compiled her own job application for her characters. And so it was wanting to know everything. And it's not that everything makes it into the story.
It's just the stuff that determines how they move.
Right. She's like, I want to know what their shoe size is. I want to know what their biggest secret is. I want to know, do they wash the dental floss? No. But she said she wants to know everything, all the things. And even if it doesn't make it onto the page, you know in your head, who they are, what makes them tick, what makes them breathe, like you said, what makes them move, And that is one of my favorite parts of writing, is the characters, is developing the characters and making them feel distinct. And even if you don't like them, I'm okay with that, because if it evokes a reaction, I'd rather that than you just are like,
whatever. Right.
Whatever. Yeah. Even if you think this Erica character, even if you think she is the devil incarnate, which she probably is, that's okay. You felt something for her. Even if you find Carly, who's like the people pleaser, irritating as F, that's okay. You felt something for her.
Right. Yeah. I did feel a lot of things, because you can feel the angst. Like, you can feel the angst between the girls, and you can feel the angst between the mothers and the daughters, and you can feel like the tension that the daughters are kind of creating with the parents. So there's like all this interwoven relationship dynamics that really, you can understand everybody's sides, and so it kind of, you can understand them, but there are definitely certain characters that I hated more than others. Even that, like, I could not stand Erica's ass.
Right.
Period.
Right.
End of discussion. There's no
Do
redeeming
not stop.
qualities.
Do not pass
Do
go.
not pass go. Leave her ass in jail. I'm done. Do not like Erica.
What was so interesting, because like I was saying, like, I had these beta readers who were like, oh my God, like, I just loved her. And I said, well, why? And what they said was because she goes after what she wants. And I thought that was so interesting, because I think there are a lot of us in the world, right, who maybe don't have that. Now, you don't go about it the way she went about things, of course. Listen, but it's like the drive, the determination.
I don't think she went after what she wanted. She landed a man who had a lot of money, and she was his little gopher. But I don't see her as going after what she wanted. I saw her as, I don't know, she just...
Well, she wanted status. She wanted to be the queen bee, and that's what she got.
She didn't.
That's what she got.
I don't think she realized how much she wanted status. I think she was happy with her. I can't even say it. She was happy with the new person that she created.
With the life
but I don't think she thought about status like that until she married Jay.
And sometimes I think sometimes it's one of those things where, a lot of times we don't know until we know.
Until we know. Yeah.
And sometimes I think you don't know what you want until it's right there in front of you.
Yeah.
And, then it becomes like a choice you can make. You can say, it's kind of like, just because a man asks you to marry him, you don't have to marry him.
Right. Yeah.
And I guess when I think of Erica, that's how she maybe deep down, she knew, but she didn't know in some ways the price she was going to have to pay, like a lot of people, or like when you take a job, you think, oh my God, it's my dream job, oh my God, and then you realize, no, it's like, I'm here every night till midnight.
Right.
Like, this is terrible. I may be making 6 figures, but, I'm about to, go stand in traffic,
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So that's just how I kind of see her a little bit.
Okay.
But that's just me.
That's just you, ma'am, because ain't nobody over here liking anything about Erica.
Audra in Jersey signs in and says, no.
No, ma'am. Don't like her. Nope.
And that's okay.
And we already had a discussion offline about what you did.
We did, yes.
And we ain't going to say it.
We're not going to say it because it'll give it away. Give it away. Yeah.
All I'm saying is...
And that, and not to give anything away, but, as I said, I changed the ending because people were like, but no. I want this for, that
just
character.
like you included them cut scenes, you should have included the other ending, because I think I want to see the other ending.
I'll tell you offline. I'll tell you offline what the other ending was. I'll tell you offline.
All right. Yes. So
That'll
now we're
going
to
secret.
our little thing going on here, because I need to know. A
little group of 2.
Yeah, a little group. Yes. So you hinted at something before, so now I want to circle back to that.
Now I can say it.
This book has 2 timelines, the 1980s and current day. Yes. And in the booklet, you offer that with the extras, you talk about the fun you had researching this novel. Yeah. And I definitely saw nods to my childhood.
Yes.
Mentions to like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and all these other
top
things.
10 favorite movie.
Yes, girl. I can say every line by heart.
Yes,
I know the whole movie.
Indeed.
So let's talk about the research process for And When I Die.
Yes. So, as I mentioned before, the inspiration came from this episode of on Investigation Discovery. I wish I could remember the name of the show, but they only did a couple seasons of it, and it was about the 80s. So first I started with learning everything I could about the murder and about Kirsten's family, about Bernadette's family, what happened to Bernadette, all those things, and just reading as much as I could, reading as many articles. And then, yes, I did go back and rewatch the movie A Friend to Die For with Tori Spelling. Research. Yes.
That's what we want to call it. Okay.
Research. Right. And it was just as amazing as I remembered from when I watched it before. And then because I knew I was going to have this this timeline in the 80s, and even though, yes, I know a lot of it because, that was like the simpler time in life, right? So, you don't forget the simple, fun times.
Right.
But I went to the library, and that's one of my favorite things to do is go to the library. I was a library kid. I was there.
Me too.
Yes, like 5-6 times a week, stacks of books, loved it. And so Chicago Public Library, huge, great resource. And I went down deep into the magazines of one particular time frame in the 80s. And I pulled out like old issues of 17 magazine, of YM magazine. There was one part where I had those quizzes in Cosmopolitan. And so I wanted to actually see like an actual quiz in Cosmopolitan that I wanted to reference. And so I found that, or they'd have the little quizzes in 17 also. And then the Columbia House, where you'd send in like for your, your 10 tapes for a penny, And so I wanted to like lay eyes on those, actual, ads and inserts. And, it was just, I just had so much fun going back and remembering and reliving. And it would talk, in these magazines about movies that, were coming out. And then remembering like, oh, when Top Gun came out. Oh, when, this movie, when that movie. And like they're interviewing the actors who are in the movies and, you're just looking at the fashions and just all of those things. And it was just so much fun to take that deep dive. Like I said, like you remember because you lived it and like it was such a great time. Then, getting to relive it in a way when you're looking at those magazines, which are such just an amazing time capsule. To go back and look. And something else that's really a big part of my stories, the books that I write, are songs. So they're all, because you mentioned this when you emailed me, song titles.
It's a question. Don't take another question away.
Okay. I'm up here, and Audra's like, get back here.
Come back. Come back.
No, right here.
Come back, right here. Taking all my questions away.
Just one thing I will say, just not to take anything away, but just looking at like music from the time was also, so a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, because you have like a whole music list, like a Spotify list for this as well.
A playlist, yeah, and that's a lot a well.
Or on YouTube, I should say. I shouldn't say Spotify. Yeah. It's a YouTube playlist.
I'm not paying for Spotify.
Yeah, I don't pay for Spotify either. Whatever is free is, and the only reason the app is on my phone is because it came on the phone.
Because it came with the phone, right?
Yeah, I ain't thinking about Spotify.
Right. Free?
Okay.
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, please. Free 99. That's what we're doing.
Free 99. I love it. I'm gonna steal that, please. Free 99. I love it.
Free 99. Okay. Yes. So I'm doing something a little different for this episode, never done before. I'm giving you an opportunity.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
That I have never given any other author on this show.
Okay.
You can ask me 2 questions that you would like to ask me about the book. Now, remember, I get people mixed up, as you saw. So you might have to give me some context clues. But ask me any 2 questions about this book.
Well, I guess the first thing is, did you figure it out who did it before I told you?
Hell no. Because I just knew it was a certain person.
Okay. Okay.
And it was who had the sweatshirt.
Yes, that's what all my beta readers thought that too. Yeah.
And I was just like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah. My one who read it, she was like, well, I already know who did it, so what do I need to keep reading for? And then she said, when she realized, she said, you pulled a fast one on me. And I
Girl,
said,
you threw a lot of red herrings up in here. I don't know how you kept that balance and navigated between revealing stuff and also moving the plot forward and keeping the suspense and keeping me trying to figure out, well, who did it? Like...
Yeah. Oh, gosh, that's good. That's really... I'm glad to hear that. Because you don't always know, because I'm somebody... I've read so many mysteries, from the womb, pretty much. And, a lot of times you feel like, well, of course everybody's going to figure this out because it's, like, been done before, So hearing that is really, it's gratifying.
And at one point I was like, damn, Bianca, like, how many other people are going to be...
pop up in here.
Like, I have no idea who the hell did this, for real.
Oh, God.
Like, I don't... And then when you brought it all together, and I was like...
And so I guess that would be like my second question. So you didn't figure it out. So then when I did tell you who it was and why, was that a surprise when I revealed that?
Yes. Because,
didn't see that coming.
Because when Melody met a certain person and was just like...
Yes.
Kept looking at her and was like... yeah.
Something's not right here. Yeah.
Something's not right. And she was talking to the other person that she was with, and that connection.
Right.
Like, it's funny that this happenstance thing that, just a casual coincidence.
Yeah.
Just blew everything wide open.
Right. And that is, like you hear this a lot, right, in like books. I went years ago, what's her name? Barbara Taylor Bradford. She wrote like Woman of Independent Means and, all these other kind of like epic books. But she was being interviewed at the Printers Row Lit Fest years ago. And she was saying like a big criticism that she would get from the critics is like, oh, there's so many coincidences in these books and your stories. And she's like, that's life. Right. Life is a coincidence. And I was like, I like that. I'm going to remember that because it's true. Because
that was one hell of a coincidence that blew shit all the way open.
Right.
Like, exploded. A nuclear bomb explosion. Like, everything was going off in my head. When I was like, no, she crazy. And then she started putting stuff together, and I was like...
Yeah.
Like that one description where you said that her mind just blew up.
Yeah.
In the book, I was like, yep, I understand because I'm right there with you. Like,
you're like, yes, sign up for mind explosion right here.
Mind explosion.
No, that's like I said, that just hearing that, I mean, that that makes me feel like, okay, I did my job.
No clue.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
No clue.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I was like, okay,
I'm so happy you were clueless.
I was clueless to the point where I put the book down. I went, well, I should say, I put my Kindle down, and then I went onto Amazon app, and I was like, Bianca Sloane. And the books came up, and I bought like 3 more books. It was like, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will be reading another one this weekend because I was like, okay, Bianca.
Said I see you.
Bianca's like she's an auto-buy author for me. She's been put on auto-buy status because I need that kind of thrill in my life.
Oh, I love it. I love I'm providing a thrill.
That's a thrill, girl. I was... When I first opened up the Kindle book, it was like 544 pages. I was like, damn, what is going on?
Yeah.
Am I going to read 544 pages?
Right.
But then I was just like, okay, like a lot of these chapters were short.
Yeah.
Like they'd be 2 or 3 pages. But they were so crucial to moving the story forward. And I was just like, I told her before we started, there's these snacks that my friend Chelsea got me hooked on called Pockies. And they're these like little long cookies
like,
wrapped in yogurt.
chocolate or whatever, right?
Yeah, they have chocolate, they have strawberry, they have all these different flavors. And I cannot tell you how many boxes of Pockies I went through, just sitting there not even paying attention, like ripping them open like while I'm reading this book and like getting cups and cups of coffee, and I'm not supposed to have 2 cups a day, and I'm pretty sure I read like oh my God, like I had to have my coffee with this book. It was just that good.
I love that. And you talk about the page count, and that was something I definitely agonized over, because I tried every which way, I swear, to make this, to lop off like a good 200 or so pages. And I just couldn't make it work. It it wasn't, it was like too much was missing. It didn't make sense. And then I just finally said, you know what, just who cares?
Like, please, if Stephen King can have them 1,000-ass page books, you can have a 544 page book.
I can do 544 pages,
and it goes quickly. Like, you want to keep reading.
Yeah. And I definitely, they say, was it Maya Angelou? You write the book that you want to read, and I like a short chapter. Like I'm reading this book now. I won't say what it is, where the chapters are like 2 hours, because on the Kindle it'll tell you.
Right.
And I'm like,
yeah. Like, oh,
I'm
Lord.
like, what? Because you want to read, because I took a writing class, as you mentioned in my bio, with Joy Fielding, who's like my author crush, totally. And she was saying, like 10, 15 pages max is all you need. And I'm like, I probably need less than that. I probably need, like, because I like to, I'm not that person, which a lot of us, one more chapter before bed. And if I've got to look at a 2-hour chapter, like, no. But if you
this is how Bianca gets your ass staying up past your bedtime. Because I look and it says, you go to the new chapter and it's like 2 minutes in this chapter. I'm like, that's a short ass chapter. There must be something juicy in here. And then I read that, and then the next one is like, this chapter is 2 minutes. I'm like, another 2-minute chapter? All right, let me read that.
I can do that.
I read that chapter. Then it's another one. It's like, this chapter is 7 minutes. I'm like, I can do 7 minutes. Let me just go through 7 minutes.
And then 2 hours later.
I'm like a quarter of the way through the book, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and my husband's over there snoring, and I'm sitting here reading the book. Like, the hell are you doing, Bianca?
Just call me your pusher, baby.
She's the pusher. Put it right in the veins. Right, just hit me up.
Right
hit it right there. Hit it right there.
Boom, 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 boom.
Just constant hit after hit after hit. Like, damn, Bianca. Okay. I see you, girl.
I do what I do.
Listen, if y'all read this book on Kindle, switch the thing at the bottom to how many minutes are left in the chapter, and you'll see what I mean. Well, as you read, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this chapter real quick. And then you be like, I'm going to do this chapter real quick. I'm going to do this chapter real quick. I looked up and I was like 246 pages into the book before I even realized what I was doing.
Well, that's how James Patterson, right? Like, his chapter's like 2 pages. 2 pages. And it's the same thing. Like, the next thing you know, like, oh.
And be leaving them chapters on a cliffhanger.
On the cliffhanger, right?
Like with Jordan's ass, and she was like, I can't tell you where I was Saturday. Like, bitch, what?
Right. And then you have to keep reading, because now I gotta know, where was she? Right.
So I gotta flip through the chapters. Right. That's one of the reasons why I'm flipping
through them. And then they don't tell you right away where she was. No. So now you're really,
I was like, let me find Bianca. She better be glad I don't know where her house is, because I'd be going over like, I'm not even reading this book anymore. You fucking sit down here and you gonna tell me.
You tell me everything.
What is going on? Because I'm tired of waiting. I can't read fast enough, ma'am. I need to know who did it and why. Yeah.
Oh, but Audra.
Listen. And I already said we don't know what's going on at the end of this book. I don't know if this.
Oh, I'm gonna blow your. I'd like to think I'm gonna blow your mind when I tell you offline what the original ending was, but we'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
So, something neat about your book titles, with the exception of this one, is they're all titles to songs. How did you come up with that?
Well, this one is also a song
Oh, it is
title.
this one. I thought you said this one wasn't in the extras. See, I'm all messed up. You got my brain all messed up.
I had a different. Yeah, I got you shook. It's all good though. But
I'm shook. I'm shook it.
Right. It's done. I've laid you flat. It's over. Done. So there's not enough Pockies in the day today.
I'm all out of Pockies. I had a whole stack. I went through my whole carb load restriction in like one day. I ate all them boxes I wasn't supposed to eat. Gone.
Tell your husband my apologies. I got you wired on coffee and sugar.
Wired.
Of course, he was snoring asleep, so what did he care, right?
He ain't thinking about me.
He ain't thinking about you.
He's asleep.
Yeah, this one originally was called A Hazy Shade of Winter after the Bangles song, which I got a lot of good response to that, but the problem was I couldn't really make it fit because I was like, well, if I'm going to say Hazy Shade of Winter, it should be winter in this book, but I couldn't make it winter, if that makes crazy sense. So I had to come up with something else.
Okay.
And what I like about song titles, so like my first book, Killing Me Softly, and you know, a lot of times the titles will have something to do in some way with, and you know, if you do read Killing Me Softly, hopefully it'll make sense.
Yeah, I downloaded it. It's
okay. Okay. Now that one, I'm just gonna say from what I've been told, you may not sleep with that one either. And that one's only like 200 some odd pages. So
I ain't got no more Pockies.
So, well, we need to get your husband, get in the car, and go get you some Pockies. Okay, because I'm just saying, you know, because that one's a much shorter book than this one. So yeah. But then I have Sweet Little Lies, which is you know, it's infidelity. So like that's, you know, Every Breath You Take, that's about a stalker. So if you listen to the lyrics of Every Breath You Take, it's not a love song, which a lot of people confuse.
It's not a love song.
Not at all. Like I saw an interview
Every
with
breath
Sting.
You take, every move you make, I'll be watching you.
Right.
First time I heard that, I was like, oh.
I saw an interview with Sting, and he said, people tell me that that's like their first dance at their wedding, and he says, I tell them good luck, because it's not a love song.
Yeah, no.
Not at all. And then, so with this one, as I said, you know, it started off as Hazy Shade of Winter, and I couldn't really make it fit. It didn't really make sense, and so then I was on the hunt for a song, a title. And you know, kind of the process with that is I might go through and I might think about, you know, what are like keywords, you know, like I might say, for example, what are songs with murder in the title? What are songs with death in the title? What are, you know, and I just start Googling. And I mean, the internet is amazing.
A compendium of all human knowledge.
My goodness. Like I was looking at
anything you can think of, you're going to find.
I needed to know a certain date from like 5 years ago. What day of the week was that? You know, and like internet, you know, calendars, whatever I found, you know, and well, there it is, you know. But you can find these lists of, you know, songs. I mean, anything, it's there on the internet. And so I went through and I found, you know, whatever handful of titles, murder, death, deception, you know, whatever keywords I was using.
Right.
And I narrowed it down to 3, one of which was And When I Die. And I ran it past a couple of people, and unanimously that was the one. And that was my favorite too. So it was like good to get that, you know, reinforcement from other people. They were like, oh, yeah, that's the one. This one. I was like, oh, good. That's my favorite. Not that, you know, I mean, I have final say on this, but it helps if you have other people who say, you know, yes, we like that too. So
and then when I look at the cover, and then after I finished reading, and I was like,
it made sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I use demonza.com. I mean, they do amazing work. amazing work. And I told them, when you're coming up with the concept, I want at least one of them to have this raincoat, this yellow. And I actually found the picture.
Okay.
I said, incorporate this just so I can see. And it was just no question. When they came back with the concept, I was like, this is the one. It was amazing. Yeah.
After everything, after I read the book, because it didn't immediately hit me because I wasn't thinking about it. But after I finished the book, and Kindle will take you back to the cover of the book.
Right.
And I went,
You're like, oh, wait, now what?
Like, wait a minute. Oh. And then I just sat there and stared at the cover for like 5 minutes. It's like,
they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
They really did. Yeah. I could not have been happier with, because I do, I'm an indie published, and so the book, all the mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
And, finding a good cover design, and finding the right concept it's such a challenge.
Right.
But like I said, they just did an amazing job, and I couldn't have come up. Like I said, I knew the picture, but you don't know, what it's going to look like until you see it. But they just blew away my expectations.
Right. Absolutely.
On that. Hands down.
Absolutely.
Hands down. So anybody looking for a good cover designer, Demonza.com.
So you mentioned being an indie, so that's one of my questions. So what?
Yeah.
And you write thrillers, which I have not found a lot of Black authors, especially indie, who write thrillers.
Yeah.
So what unique perspectives do you bring to your work, and how do they enhance your storytelling? You being a Black indie and a Black woman author.
And I think for me, I talked about this earlier, was bringing my own experience to it. Being a young, in my mind anyway, young Black woman who, child of the 80s, came from, a home, with, I had an attorney father. My stepmother was an attorney, and emphasis on education. And I worked in corporate America for years, and live in a city. So all of those things were important to me, and we talked about certain experiences. Like I love Lifetime movies, and I've, much like Investigation Discovery, I've probably seen all the Lifetime movies, and one of the mandates that I gave myself was, it's like I want the stories to be like Lifetime movies if like Halle Berry was in it, because she's like, we talk, she's someone who's like universal, right, she's not in a box of any kind, and I wanted to bring that to these stories. I wanted to show that we're just people. We
regular ass people,
regular ass folk, who experience, who have fakakta families, right?
I love you because I use that word and nobody knows what the hell I mean, because I grew up in Jersey around all them Jewish people. And here in Maryland, people are like, what the hell is fakakta? I'm like, y'all, see, you're my favorite person.
We are here, girl. We're here.
Right there.
We're here.
My husband heard that the first time. He was like, the what?
You're like fakakta.
Fakakta. It just means like stupid or silly.
Right. I watch a lot of Bravo, so that's where me and Andy Cohen.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Totally. Yes. But like, that's like that universal thing. Like I come from a big family. There's 5 kids. And we all have our, there's the different dynamics. And that's something anybody can relate to.
Right.
Regardless of your race or your ethnicity, And, I have fights with, this one. I don't, I got, get along with this one this week. Or, and again, like anybody can relate to that. Anybody can relate to, you're trying to find a job. Everybody's been there at some point in their life, the frustration of that, and that doesn't have anything to do with,
my blackness. Yes.
Right. It's a universal struggle.
It's a universal thing.
Struggles can be universal. Families can be universal. Pockies can be universal. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter, And that was just so important to me to bring that out in the types of stories that I wanted to tell. And one group that I'm in is Crime Writers of Color, which I know you've had Kelly on your show previously, and that's just such a wonderful resource because it's just a great place to kind of come together and kind of share triumphs and victories, but also some of the struggles that you can face.
Right.
And it's so great that it's starting to become, I think we're starting to see more of authors of color telling these kinds of stories. I mean, like Kelly's book, Like a Sister. You would not look at that, like the cover, and automatically say, like, oh, that's
a black story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a story.
It's just a story. It's just a story. And I so love that that's like where we're going. That's the direction that we're heading in. That we're not feeling bound by having to fit in that box of
trauma, dysfunction.
Everything
is about racism. I mean, because we deal with that, and there's nothing wrong with those books. I have a lot of those books. But at the same time, sometimes
not everything.
When it gets to be too much out there, I just want to escape and read something that's going to take me completely away.
Right.
But I want it to be written by somebody that looks like me.
That looks like you. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Same.
Absolutely.
Like we all love the Golden Girls. There's not
a girl, yeah.
Ain't no black Golden Girls.
Ain't no black girl. That
but we all love it. We all relate to it.
Can you imagine what a hot mess that would be of a show? I would be in stitches the whole time. I just know I would because
that would be it would be too much.
Too much.
If you got like what's her name, Jennifer Lewis, right? You get her in there as like
Jennifer would be Sophia because she's savage like that.
Blanche, that's interesting.
Really?
But she could be Sophia only because she's a little saucy. She's a little. She's feeling herself. She's feeling herself. But you're right, Sophia.
No, not Sophia. Not Sophia. Dorothy, the tall one.
Oh,
yeah,
Dorothy.
Because she's kind of Dorothy was kind of savage. I mean, Sophia's savage too.
There was no kind of about it. She was just a straight up gangster.
Jennifer Lewis would be Dorothy for sure. Yeah. She'd be in my book. She'd be Dorothy for sure.
She'd be Dorothy. Yeah.
I don't know who would be Blanche or I don't know.
Yeah, who do you get? Oh, because you watched Living Single, right, back in the day.
Yeah. Sinclair could be
Kim Coles. She'd
be Rose.
She's about the age now, right?
She'd be Rose for sure.
To be Rose, yeah.
But
no, it's like I said, I just think that it's wonderful that we're going in that direction. That it's not putting ourselves in these boxes of like my book Every Breath You Take, the main character Natalie. I based a little bit of her. I mean, in each of my characters, there's a little bit of me. There's no one that I've written about so far that's totally me, but there's little pieces of me. But she works in public relations, and that's what I did. She works downtown Chicago. That's what I did. And she has one of her good girlfriends is white, and one of them is Latina, and and that's been again like very much my experience of being in these kind of diverse, multicultural, places, and I wanted to just bring a little bit of that out, like what it was like to be a young 20-something girl, working in these corporate America, environments, and you're meeting up with your girlfriends, after work for cocktails, and you're bitching
and
about.
You ain't thinking about the bill. You just ordering what the hell you
just
feel like ordering.
Whatever you want to order, and and you're thinking about like, oh, it'd be great if I met a guy. I met a nice guy. Why can't I meet a nice guy? And universal.
Yep.
Universal.
Absolutely. So where can readers find all of your books?
Yes, so you can start by going to biancasloane.com, where I have links to all the major retailers for ebooks. So Amazon, iBooks, barnesandnoble.com, Kobo for any Canadian readers, Smashwords also, and then also print books are available. And Killing Me Softly is also available as a hardcover through barnesandnoble.com. And an audio.
Notice there was
Audible.
no S on the end of noble, y'all. For people that always want to say Barnes and Nobles.
Well, having worked for Barnes and Noble, I think they'd rise up and smack me if I did that. So, you're like, girl, how many years did you work here? What do you mean you don't know? There's no S.
There's no S.
Noble. Singular. Not
silent E on the end, please, and thank you.
Not noble.
Not noble.
Not nobles.
Noble. Noble. Period.
Yes. Point blank. Yes.
And where can we find you on social media and the internet?
So I am on Twitter. So again, if you start with my website, I have links to all my social media. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I'm not on TikTok.
Don't waste your time. Yes. I'm on there, and I.
Okay, so you know. You know. So yes, that's.
And for everybody listening, you know there'll be links to all her socials on the podcast page. So just go to betweenthereads.com and click on her episode. It's all right there.
All right there.
All right there. Well, we have come to the end of our show,
oh, no.
ma'am.
Are you sure?
Listen. I'm sure. You got a long episode, though. Usually I try to cut it off at an hour. We're at an hour and 17 minutes. Because we just been having fun.
They're having a blast with the yap.
Having a ball.
I talk a lot, so yeah.
So do I.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. The mystery solved.
That's what happens. That's what happens. But thank you so much for being here, sharing your time and talents with us today.
Pleasure. Truly my pleasure.
Listen.
Thank you.
This book. Whew, y'all, if you haven't read Bianca Sloane, I'd shout out to my girl D.L. White, because I did not know about Bianca until D.L. White was like, listen, let me tell you about Bianca. So, thank you, D.L.
D.L. is amazing. She's so supportive, and you just won't find a bigger champion. Truly.
Nope, she's like my biggest cheerleader for the podcast. My first Patreon. She was one of the first 10 guests I ever had on the show. Love D.L. Love her.
Shout out DL.
Yes, DL. Over there in Atlanta. Or down there
Atlanta.
I guess.
Right,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, girl.
She's down for both of us, yes. Down there. Yeah.
And y'all know what time it is. At the end of every show, I leave you with a quote. And this one comes from the book Razor Blade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And it says, folks like to talk about revenge like it's a righteous thing, but it's just hate in a nicer suit. Until next time, y'all, you know what to do. Grab a book and read. And I'm out. Thank you for lending me your ear today. If you've enjoyed this independent podcast, you can help me continue to shine the light on Black authors and their stories by becoming a patron at patreon.com/betweenthereads, or by giving a one-time gift at www.ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. That's ko-fi.com/betweenthereadspodcast. Tune in next time for another great episode.